Not every death is the end of a story. Some deaths wait for justice. 3 years after Adaeze disappeared, the village of Umuaka still looked the same. The same red earth, the same palm trees, the same quiet evenings filled with distant voices. But something had changed. Her name was no longer spoken freely. At the market, when women gathered to sell their goods, if her name came up, voices dropped, eyes shifted, and conversations ended quickly. Don't talk about it. It brings bad memories. Even children were warned. Stay away from the forest. Don't follow strangers. Don't answer when someone calls your name at dusk. Because deep down, everyone knew. Adaeze did not just disappear. Something took her, and whatever it was had never been found. Until one afternoon, a vehicle arrived at the edge of the village. Dust rose slowly into the air as it stopped. The engine went silent, and from it stepped a woman, tall, calm, composed. She wore simple but modern clothes, different from the village style. Her posture was straight, her eyes sharp, observing everything. She looked around slowly, taking it all in. Then she spoke quietly. "I'm home." Her name was Adaoma, and the moment people saw her, the village froze. Because standing there was Adaeze, or at least it looked like her. Same face, same eyes, same presence. But something about her was different. Where Adaeze had been soft, Adaoma was firm. Where Adaeze had been gentle, Adaoma was controlled. And where Adaeze had once doubted herself, Adaoma did not. Whispers began immediately. She came back. "Is that not Adaeze?" "No, it's her twin." Adaoma ignored them. She walked straight down the familiar path, past the houses, past the trees, past the memories she had left behind years ago, until she reached her mother's compound. She stopped. The house looked smaller than she remembered, quieter, older. Then she stepped inside. Mama. Inside the house, Mama Ifeoma turned. For a moment, she could not breathe. The plate in her hand slipped and fell. Her eyes filled instantly with tears. "Adaeze?" Adaoma shook her head slowly. "No." A pause. "It's me." Mama Ifeoma rushed forward and held her tightly, crying, shaking. "My daughter, my daughter." But Adaoma did not hug her back immediately. Her eyes searched the room. Then she asked the question, "Where is Adaeze?" The crying stopped. Silence filled the room, heavy, uncomfortable. Mama Ifeoma pulled away slowly, her hands trembling. She got married." Adaoma's expression did not change. "And?" "She left." A pause. "And never came back." The words landed like a stone. But Adaoma did not react emotionally. She only nodded once. "I see." That night, she did not sleep. She sat outside the house, listening, thinking. Something was wrong. Not just the story. Everything. The silence, the fear, the way people avoided her eyes. It didn't feel like a normal disappearance. It felt hidden. The next morning, Adaoma began asking questions. Most people avoided her. Some pretended to not know anything. Others simply said, "We don't talk about that anymore." But one person did not avoid her. The old woman. The same woman who had watched the wedding that night, years ago. Adaoma found her sitting under a tree, quiet, still. "I know you saw something," Adaoma said. The old woman looked up slowly. Her eyes were tired, but sharp. I was wondering when you would come. Adaoma stepped closer. Tell me. The old woman took a deep breath. That man your sister married. Pause. He was not right. Adaoma's eyes narrowed slightly. What do you mean? The old woman leaned forward. That night, Adaoma stayed silent, listening. I saw his shadow. A long pause. And from that moment, I knew. Adaoma's voice was calm. Knew what? The old woman looked directly at her. That your sister did not marry a man. Silence. She married something else. The air felt heavier. Adaoma stood still, processing every word. But she did not react with fear. She asked, where did he take her? The old woman pointed slowly toward the forest. No one who goes there like that comes back. That should have been enough to scare her, but it wasn't, because Adaoma was not Adaeze. That same day, she went further. She visited a dibia, then another, then another. Each one told her something different, but all led to the same truth. Until finally, one old priest looked at her and said, your sister is gone. Adaoma's jaw tightened. I did not ask if she is gone. A pause. I asked what took her. The priest studied her carefully, then spoke slowly. There are things that take the form of men. They look like us, they speak like us, they marry like us, but they are not like us. Adaoma's eyes did not move. They choose women who are under pressure, women who are desperate, women who will not ask too many questions. A long silence followed, and in that silence, something inside Adaoma shifted. Not fear, not shock, something colder, something sharper, understanding. She stood up slowly. So it is still out there. The priest did not answer, because he didn't need to. Adaoma turned to leave. Then he spoke one more time. You cannot fight it. She stopped, but did not turn. Many have tried. They did not return. Silence. Then Adaoma spoke. I am not trying to fight it. A pause. I am waiting for it. The priest's eyes widened slightly, but Adaoma was already walking away. That night, she returned home. Her mother sat quietly in the corner, eyes swollen from years of crying. Adaoma stood in front of her, and for the first time, her voice carried emotion. Did you push her? Mama Ifeoma looked up slowly. What? To get married. Silence. Tears filled her mother's eyes again. I just wanted her to be happy. Adaoma's voice hardened. Or you wanted her to stop being a burden. Her mother broke down completely. I didn't know. I didn't know. Adaoma said nothing. Because it didn't matter anymore. What was done was done. But what came next was her choice. That night, as the village slept, Adaoma sat alone, looking toward the dark forest, her eyes steady, unshaken, and she whispered softly, if you could come once, pause, you will come again. Her gaze sharpened, and this time I will be ready.
After that night, Adaoma changed. Not outside. Outside, she remained calm, quiet, normal. But inside, something had awakened. Every morning before sunrise, she disappeared from the village. And every evening, she returned exhausted, covered in dust, sometimes ash, sometimes strange markings hidden beneath her sleeves. The villagers began whispering again. She's doing something. She is looking for answers. No, she is looking for revenge. And they were right. For 6 months, Adaoma prepared. Not alone. The old woman helped her. The Dibias helped her. Even those who once feared speaking began helping quietly. Because deep down, everyone wanted the same thing: to end it. The first lesson the priests taught her was fear. Not how to feel it, how to hide it. So, Adaoma learned control, even when strange things began happening around her. At night, she heard footsteps outside her room, slow, heavy. But whenever she opened the door, nothing was there. Sometimes she heard breathing near her window, sometimes whispers, and once, very late at night, she woke suddenly and saw a tall figure standing far away near the trees, watching her house, completely still. Adaoma did not scream. She only stared back. And after a long moment, the figure disappeared into darkness. The next morning, the old woman visited her. She knows. Adaoma's expression remained calm. He knows someone is looking for him. A silence followed. Then Adaoma asked, "Good." The old woman looked surprised. "You are not afraid?" Adaoma's eyes darkened slightly. "I stopped being afraid the day I learned how my sister died." That same week, the preparations became deeper. The priests marked hidden symbols inside Adaoma's room, under the bed, behind the door, inside the walls. Protection. Then they gave her something more dangerous: bait. "You must make him choose you willingly," one priest warned. "You cannot drag him here. He must come by himself." Adaoma nodded slowly. And so the performance began. The village started hearing new whispers. Adaeze's twin is still unmarried. She is lonely. She wants a husband. All lies. Carefully planted. Even Adaoma's mother believed them at first. One evening, she confronted her daughter. "You should stop this." Adaoma looked at her quietly. "Stop what?" "This obsession." A pause. "Your sister is gone." The words hung painfully in the air. Then Adaoma stepped closer slowly. "She is gone because nobody stopped him." Her mother's eyes filled with tears instantly. Adaoma's voice softened slightly. "But I will." Weeks passed. Then one afternoon, he arrived. The entire village felt it before they saw him. Dogs became restless. Birds suddenly stopped singing. Even the air felt heavier. Then a stranger entered Umuaka. Tall, elegant, calm. He looked older than Obinna, perhaps in his 40s. His skin was lighter, his face sharper, more refined, and unlike before, he smiled easily. Women noticed him immediately. Some even whispered, "What a handsome man." But Adaoma knew. The moment she saw him, she knew. Not because of his face, but because something around him felt wrong, cold. And then she noticed it. His shadow. It moved half a second too late. Just once, but it was enough. Adaoma felt her heartbeat rise slightly. It's him. For a brief second, the man looked directly at her, and something dangerous passed between them. Recognition. It's too fast for anyone else to notice, but not fast enough, because the spirit noticed her reaction. His smile faded slightly. Just slightly. Adaoma realized immediately. He suspects me. And in that moment, everything could have failed. The priest had warned her. If he suspects danger, he will disappear and you may never see him again. Adaoma's mind raced. Then suddenly she smiled, softly, almost shy, and lowered her eyes, just like Adaeze once did. The tension disappeared instantly. The spirit relaxed, only slightly, but enough. Then Adaoma did something unexpected. She laughed quietly. "You must be new here," she said softly. The stranger smiled again. "Yes, I am only passing through." Adaoma tilted her head slightly. "Then perhaps the village will convince you to stay." Behind them, the old woman watched silently. And for the first time in years, she smiled. Because Adaoma had done it. She fooled him. From that day onward, the stranger remained in the village, slowly gaining trust, exactly as before. But this time, he was walking into a trap. And he did not know that every smile, every conversation, every step closer to Adaoma was tightening his rope around his neck. At night, the priest prepared. Quiet chants filled hidden rooms. Protective fires burned softly. Sacred powders lined doorways. And every day, the spirit grew more comfortable, closer, until finally, one evening, he asked, "May I visit you tonight?" Adaoma looked at him quietly, then smiled. "Yes." Far away, inside the hidden shrine, the priests opened their eyes at the exact same moment, because the trap, had finally opened, and once he entered, it would close forever. That night, the village of Umuaka became unusually quiet. The wind moved slowly through the trees. Dogs refused to bark. Even the insects seemed afraid to make noise. Inside their homes, the villagers waited silently. Because everyone knew something important was about to happen. For 6 months, Adaoma and the priests had prepared for this night. And now, the trap was ready. Inside Adaoma's room, only one lantern glowed softly. The room looked peaceful, simple, normal. But hidden beneath the calm was death. Spiritual symbols were buried beneath the floor. Protective chalk marks lined the walls carefully. Ashes from sacred rituals rested beneath the windows. And outside the house, the priests hid quietly in darkness, waiting. Adaoma sat calmly on her bed, dressed simply, quiet. But inside, her heart pounded heavily. Not from fear, from anticipation. Then, finally, a knock came to the door. 3 slow knocks. Adaoma inhaled quietly, then stood up. She walked toward the door slowly and opened it. Chikezi stood there, tall, elegant, smiling softly. His expensive traditional outfit moved gently in the wind. His beard was neatly trimmed, his voice calm and mature. "Good evening," he said warmly. Adaoma smiled softly. "You came." Chikezi chuckled lightly. "You invited me." Adaoma stepped aside gently. "Come in." The moment he entered the room, the lantern flickered once, very quickly. But Chikezi noticed. His eyes moved slowly across the room, observing carefully. Adaoma remained calm. "Is something wrong?" Chikezi looked back at her, then smiled again. "No." But Adaoma could feel it. He sensed something. Not enough to leave, but enough to become careful. He sat down slowly. For a while, they talked quietly. Every word between them felt dangerous, because both of them were pretending. Adaoma pretending to trust him, and Chikezi pretending to be human. Then suddenly, his eyes stopped at the far corner of the room. One of the hidden symbols beneath the clay wall had cracked slightly, very slightly. But enough. Chikezi's smile faded. He stood slowly. I think I should leave. Outside, one priest tightened his grip nervously. If he walked away now, everything would fail. Adaoma moved immediately, not desperately, carefully. She touched his arm gently, then smiled softly. So soon? Chikezi paused. Adaoma lowered her eyes slightly. You barely arrived. For a moment, the room became completely silent. Then slowly, Chikezi smiled again and sat back down. Outside, the oldest priest exhaled quietly. The trap was still alive. Time passed slowly. Then midnight arrived, and suddenly the lantern exploded. Darkness swallowed the room instantly. At the exact same time, the symbols hidden around the room burst into light. Chikezi jumped backward violently. What is this? The door slammed shut on its own. Outside the house, the priests began chanting loudly. The walls trembled. The air became heavy. Chikezi's calm expression disappeared completely. You tricked me. Adaoma stepped backward slowly. Her voice no longer sounded gentle. No. A pause. We trapped you. Chikezi roared angrily. The entire room shook violently. Then, something horrifying began happening. His shadow stretched unnaturally across the wall. His smile twisted painfully. His voice deepened, and slowly, his human appearance began breaking apart. His skin darkened like burning charcoal. His fingers stretched longer. His eyes glowed unnaturally bright. Adaoma stared at him silently. For the first time, she was seeing what truly killed her sister. Outside, the priests increased their chanting loudly. The glowing symbols burnt brighter. Smoke began rising from his body. He screamed furiously. Then suddenly, he laughed. A terrible sound. You think this can destroy me? Without warning, the windows burst open violently. A powerful wind entered the room, and from the forest, dark figures began rushing toward the village. More spirits, tall shadow-like creatures moving unnaturally fast through the darkness. The old woman's face changed immediately. They came for him. Inside the room, Chikezi smiled again. You are too late. But the oldest priest stepped forward calmly. No. He looked toward the horizon. You are. Slowly, the first sunlight appeared. The moment the sunlight touched Chikezi, he screamed. Not angrily, fearfully. Smoke exploded from his body instantly. No! Outside the village, the other spirits rushed forward desperately. But the sunlight spread too quickly. The moment it touched them, their bodies caught fire. One after the other, they burned into ashes. The villagers watched in horror and amazement. The spirits tried escaping, but the priests had sealed the village spiritually during the night. There was nowhere to run. Inside the room, Chikezi collapsed to his knees. His skin cracked like dry wood. Ashes fell from his body. Adaoma stepped closer slowly. Tears filled her eyes. And finally, she asked, What did you do to Adaeze? Chikezi looked up at her weakly, then smiled painfully. She cried for her mother. Outside, Mama Ifeoma froze. And nobody came. Tears rolled down Adaoma's face instantly. Chikezi laughed weakly again. She died begging to go home. Mama Ifeoma collapsed screaming in pain, because every word pierced her heart. Chikezi turned toward her slowly. You pushed her toward me. From that day onward, Mama Ifeoma would never escape the guilt. The sunlight grew stronger. Chikezi screamed louder. His body began breaking apart rapidly. The priest shouted the final chant loudly. The symbols exploded into blinding light. And finally, Chikezi's body burst into ashes. Silence. Complete silence. The darkness vanished instantly. The heaviness over the village disappeared. The cold wind stopped completely. It was over. Days passed, then weeks, then months. And slowly, Umuaka changed. The fear disappeared. The crops became healthier. The market became larger. Travelers began returning again. New buildings appeared. Trade increased. Peace returned. At the center of the village, the people built a statue of Adaeze, not as a victim, but as a warning, a memory, and a symbol of justice. Every morning, Mama Ifeoma visited the statue quietly, not speaking, only crying silently, because some regrets never die.
Then one peaceful night, Adaoma had a dream. She stood in a beautiful open field filled with sunlight, and there she saw Adaeze, happy, smiling, free, no fear, no pain, only peace. Adaeze walked toward her slowly, then whispered softly, "Thank you." Tears filled Adaoma's eyes. Adaeze smiled gently one last time, then disappeared into the light. Adaoma woke up crying softly, but for the first time in years, she smiled because finally her sister could rest. And that is the end of our story for today. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps this channel grow and allows us to bring you more deep African folk tales and mysteries. Remember, not everything beautiful is safe, and sometimes the dead wait patiently for justice. Bye for now, and I'll see you in the next story.